Hi, welcome to your intro to the AFRS Dashboard and how to use it. So some big changes this year. In order to norm AFRS data, to help them norm it, we are using a longer form in order to enter in all of the granular little data so that they can go through the norming process. But I tried to make this as easy and efficient for you as possible when going through the entry. So let's talk about how we would enter in a record, kind of the tips and tricks. And then I'll show you what it can do later on. The beauty of this dashboard is it's going to be useful to show you results, recommendations right away as soon as you enter in the results. So that should really help. Okay, so to begin with, we're going to put in the student name and we're going to put in the last name before the first name. So we're going to go ahead with Hermione Granger here, keep it with a Harry Potter theme, female for gender, and then pre-test date. Let's say that we gave the pretest to Hermione today. For the student email, we should probably look this up either on the school dashboard, which isn't out yet, or on EDSB in order to see what it is. But typically, of course, it is the first four letters and then the last four letters. So Hermione Granger at sd76.net. So I'll put that down there. I'm just going to close my Outlook so I don't get any more of those notifications. And then we're going to put down the birth date. Let's say it's November 8th, 2018. Try to keep it consistent with what would possibly be grade 1. Okay, so now we've got all of that information for Hermione. If we miss one of these things and we don't put it in, when you try to submit it, it's going to give some kind of an error. So I'll show that to you in a second, saying like, hey, you're missing this, please fill it out. Then from there, what we do is we check the things that were correct from the test. We don't have to check things that are wrong. It's assumed that the kid could not do the thing unless we have it checked off, which means green, they did it. So for example, for Hermione, if she did all of the initial sound isolation stuff, then we could select everything. But there's a trick. We have this box at the top, and if we select that, sometimes it takes a second, takes longer the first time, it will fill in everything below. And in fact, we can actually do that and then take one off if we need to. So let's say that Hermione got all of these initial, final, and medial sounds, missed a couple, take those away. Here we got this and so on. So I'm just filling out kind of random answers here. Obviously, you will either be doing this with the kid at the time, filling out this digital form, or you'll do the paper form first and then fill it out digitally. I tried to make it so that the digital version looks exactly like the form or as close as possible so that mapping the entry between the two should hopefully be really easy. So as we go through, we mark what they did, blah, blah, blah. Huge time saver when it comes to letter identification and sound identification by using those upper boxes to fill it up quickly. Once we get to these ones that have incorrect responses, you don't need to put those in. If you'd like to, you certainly can. Once we say that it was correct, of course, that grays out because there isn't an incorrect response if they got it right. But if you want to put something in, like they said in instead of on, we could do that and it will fill that in for you and get submitted. But we can go ahead and fill in the rest, and then I'll show you the submission process. So once I've got those things put in, let's take out something so you can see. Let's say we forgot to put in Hermione's email and we try to submit. The first time we submit, it's going to ask for you to authorize the script. So you're going to press OK. It's going to then go to like your profile here, make sure it's you before you can continue. Say like, yes, I want it to be able to edit, create, delete sheets, all that stuff. Click allow. And now when I press submit the second time, it's going to now attempt to send it. But it's not going to because it says the following field is blank, student email. Please fix this field and then retry the submission. So we'll go up, we'll put in the email now. Now we'll go back down, click submit, and it's going to send it for us. And you know that it's successful because we'll give you a message saying, record for Granger Hermione submitted successfully. Okay, fantastic. So that's now done. It's been sent to the data sheet. That record has been made. So now we can view all of the records that we've entered under a Pretest Results tab. So that's the next tab in the spreadsheet. And here we have all of the information for our students and how they've done. So a few things to point out here. First of all, the top shows us kind of our different categories or totals. So the green total, that includes everything on the test. Okay, phonological skills, that kind of like burgundy color, includes sound isolation, blending, segmenting, manipulation. And then phonics skills has the sound letter correspondences, decoding reading, and encoding spelling. So these are like umbrella categories that contain all these things. And then you can see these smaller umbrellas as well. So visually, I'm trying to show what everything includes with this kind of layout. Okay, and then we have district averages. This is a live average. So as more people enter in data, this is going to shift and change. Okay, and your class average just includes your kids, of course, but it's nice to have that comparison so that you can see. And then for proficiency score, this is the score where LDAA considers the kid to be proficient or adequate in this skill. So that's kind of just a benchmark line. And this is actually how the coloring is determined. So as we go through, you can see that the scores are colored differently. And this is to show basically where they're at compared to the proficiency score, or if they're that minimal emerging below that kind of benchmark as well. So green means that they're proficient. Okay, yellow means that they're developing that skill, and then red means that it's below that minimal emerging line. So we're seeing kind of a bunch of red here, right? So that's what that shows. So each score is color-coded, and that's just a comparison to the benchmark or kind of thresholds for what's considered being adequate or proficient and what is considered minimal or emerging. Then on the right, we see recommendations for student growth areas. So this considers what would be kind of more foundational of a skill, and then what's maybe a little bit more of an advanced skill. And it will show you the skill that the kid needs to work on the most. So focus 1 is the highest priority, and then focus 2 is the second highest priority. Pretty proud of the algorithm that went into this. I think it's really good. So this will give you an idea of what your kids need to work on just at a glance. And then if you're looking at what to teach for whole class instruction, these are the 4 most common growth areas for your class. So you can look at that and have an idea of what maybe they should be working on there if you wanted to do some whole class instruction on these topics. So that's what the class growth focus rank is. Now let's say that you accidentally submit a record and you know that something is wrong. You can delete that record yourself now. So I've added a delete functionality to this sheet. If you go to the right, there's checkboxes underneath this trash can. So let's say that we want to get rid of Draco Malfoy. We know that there's something wrong with that record. All we need to do is click this box, which shows that we want to delete it. Let's say that we're also deleting Tom Riddle as well. We're deleting the bad guys. So we'll take away those 2. And then if we press the delete button, it's going to ask for a confirmation from us. Do you want to delete these records? And then if we select yes, it will think for a few moments. And then it's going to get rid of those records for us, so they're gone. Okay, so that's how we can delete records if we made some kind of a mistake or an error. And then we can just go back to pretest entry and enter in those records again, but correctly. So that's pretest results and how that works. I don't think there's anything else for me to talk about for that particular one. For pretest analysis, this allows us to zoom in and take a look at individual kids and see how they're doing. Draco I deleted, so let's take a look at, for example, Harry Potter. If I click on that, we're going to see with the pink what Harry Potter's scores are. Okay, the blue is the class score, and this pale yellow is the district. So we can see where they're at. And then in behind, we have these colors or lines that show the emerging threshold and then the proficiency threshold. So we can take a look and see where they're at just at a glance by looking at this bar graph. Zoom in just a tiny bit here so we can get a better look. So same thing for phonics strands over here, right? And then if we want to see all the little individual categories, not the larger totals, we can see that down below. So for example, we can see that maybe Harry Potter needs to work a little bit on his phoneme segmenting by taking a look at this data. Or even more syllable detection, actually, because that's quite a far away from being proficient at that skill. So that's how that works. And then at the top, again, we see the primary growth areas for that student. So really nice and easy for us to see an individual student view. You could even print this out if you wanted to, and it should print quite decently well. Just make sure in your print settings that you try to fit it to the page. Group Maker. This has been improved quite a bit. Quite happy with this Group Maker. So what we do is we first select which test we're using. Of course, right now you're going to be using the pre-test. Later on, once you have post-test results later on in the year, you're going to want to switch to post-test and consider those results instead. So that drop-down menu tells which scores we're considering. And then from here, we can just select which skills we want to make groups for, how many kids maximum we want in that group, and then what the maximum score would be in order for the kid to be allowed in that group. So for example, if you have a kid that has like 90% in spelling, well, you don't want them in a spelling group, right? So you would want that maximum score to be a much lower thing, like let's say 70%. And then that way they wouldn't be included in that group because they're already pretty good at that thing. So let's go through an example. Let's say that you're doing a pull-out group of students, and you want to see which groups would be best for doing a pull-out group for letter identification. So you can actually just turn off all of the other ones by changing it to select outcome. You can go, okay, I want 5 kids for letter identification, generate group, and it's going to give you the 5 kids. Oh, just two in this case, because everybody else had more than 70%. Here are the 2 kids that need to work on letter identification. Let's go to a harder skill. Let's go to phoneme substitution. Then if I generate that group, you can see that right away I have 5 kids here. Here are the 5 students that need to work on phoneme substitution the most. So this can be a great way to, on the fly, figure out which kids we want to pull out for some kind of an intervention. Let's say that you have centers, and you have a center for syllable blending, you have a center for sound identification, and you have a center for, I don't know, word reading. Okay, and we're running this in the classroom, and we want to get good groups for these things. Then if we click generate groups, it's going to right away figure out where those kids should go. Here we have a lot of really high achieving students. In all reality, I have one test that has the exact same results that I copied and pasted a bunch. So don't have the best data that I'm working with here. But if we do this, we should then get a nice list of kids that should be in each group. And then it kind of prioritizes it accordingly. So actually, it doesn't look like it, but this would get filled up first by the algorithm because it's a more foundational skill before it goes to this one and then finally this one, just simply because it goes from more foundational skills to kind of higher level skills. But we just don't have many kids in this particular class that need to work on syllable blending. So that's why it's showing up with only 1 student in that particular category. But you can, on the fly, just change this, regenerate. It's pretty quick, pretty fast. And then from there, you can even go ahead and copy and paste this if you want to. You could take out the last name. So you can edit this stuff in order to take away even the scores, right? So if you want to take away the scores and then just display this on the board, you could do that as a really quick way to make centers. It doesn't screw it up. With all of this sheet, you can only change the things that you're supposed to change. You can't do anything that will affect it and make it not work. If you do, I'm impressed. Let me know. I'll fix it. But maximum of 6 groups can be made, okay, at a time. But this is hopefully a really great tool for you to use. Post-test entry is more of the same, okay? It's just like the pre-test entry. The only difference is that you can select the kid from here because you already have a pre-test, and then it will fill out most of the information for you. You just need to put in the post-test date at that time. And then for post-test results, post-test analysis, again, it's just more of the same. Okay, so same stuff as what we've seen in the past. All right, so that's it. That is your LDAA AFRS dashboard. If you have any questions, please let me know, and hopefully you find it useful. Bye for now.